Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This week, I continue my series on the clans of Legend of the Five Rings, with a focus on the Dragon Clan. The Dragon Clan are most known for their two-sword dueling style and their tattooed monks. They're more than that, of course. However, unlike most of the other clans, the Dragon Clan sit apart from the rest of the Empire. And so, there are not as many stories about them as there are the other clans. So this video is going to be a bit more on the analytical side. With that out of the way, sit back, relax, and enjoy as I talk about the Dragon Clan. So, a quick question before I begin for all my viewers. Which do you think I should go with for the videos in the future? Should I wear Hawaiian shirts like I'm wearing in this video and I've worn in a few other videos? Or do you think I should go with various geeky themed or various t-shirts? Leave comments in the comment section below. Tell me what you think. I really want to hear this. That said, let's just get right on into this, shall we? So, the Dragon Clan are defined to me by one story. This story is, like the Dragon Clan, a bit of a thinking piece. Now, it's well known that Togashi did not engage in the tournament on Seppun Hill. He sat back and watched because he knew how it was going to end. Now, well after that, when the Emperor was getting ready to march into the Shadowlands alone to engage Fu Leng, when Shinsei showed up, and the little monk made all the kami sit down and listen to him. And as he made his dialogue, as he told his bits of wisdom, laying out the principles and basics of what would become the Tao of Shinsei, all the other kami were asking the little master questions, except Togashi. Togashi sat silent, listening. When Shinsei finished, Togashi just stood up and walked towards the woods. His two main retainers, Miramoto and Agasha, followed him. And they found him sitting in a clearing in these woods. When they found him sitting, he simply told them, "I will not move until I understand." And they nodded. They understood his request. And each day they started to bring him food, begging him to move, to leave, to get out of this and stop his meditation. And each day he refused, stating, "I will not move until I understand." And it came longer and longer. And then, on the 9th day, Miramoto and Agasha went to Shinsei. They told him what the problem was. And Shinsei nodded, and that is his way. On the 10th day, Togashi was surrounded by the food that his students had left him, trying to get him to eat at least. And his body was starting to fail. He knew this. His lips were cracked. his vision was hazy, and through this hazy vision, he saw the shape of Shinsei approaching him. And Togashi looked at Shinsei and croaked out, "I will not move until I understand." And then Shinsei looked at him and said, "Neither will I." And Shinsei sat down beside Togashi. At that point, it is said, Togashi laughed. And a bird flew by, a sparrow flew by, holding a plum branch in its hand. And it dropped the plum in front of Togashi. And at this point, Togashi picked up the plum and ate it. And then he and Shinsei ate the food and sake that had surrounded them. This story is seen a couple ways. On one hand, it is seen as Shinsei's actions making Togashi realize the cost of his meditation. That he was depriving his people of their leader. But I don't think that's what it was at all. My opinion is that it was at that moment Togashi understood the Tao of Shinsei. Because whenever you see the quotes from the Tao of Shinsei, so many of them are about duality. And I think it was at that point things clicked into place, finally, for Togashi. Now, what he understood, that's for him to understand. He never articulated his viewpoint exactly. But when you look at the Izizumi, the tattooed Togashi monks, you get an impression that they are the distillation of his understanding of the Tao Shinsei. But that's for another time. This was the core story for the dragon, though. This, when all is said and done, this is the story that sums the dragon up. If you understand this story, you understand the dragon. And if you don't understand this story, you are like the majority of Rokugani. Originally, the Dragon Clan consisted of 2 families and a monastic order. The youngest family was actually an offshoot from one of these 2. The 2 original families are the Agasha, who were the Shugenja family for the Dragon Clan, and the Miramoto, who were the main Bushi family. They are their own unique ways of doing things in the clan. The Agasha were very much, at this time, very much a family about alchemy, and they did some research and development into combining different elements into their prayers. This latter would not really come into play until many, many, many years later, when events happened that caused the majority of the Agasha family to leave the Dragon Clan for the Phoenix. And those who remain would be the Tamori family of the Dragon Clan. And they would double down on the alchemy aspect. However, the Mirumoto are the second best duelists in the Empire, if you ask a Crane. The Mirumoto family, Mirumoto developed the style called Niten, the two-sword style. His statement for it is, "I have two swords. Why should one work while the other be resting?" Or, and Izumi quote regarding to the Mirumoto is, "Kakita, one sword, one moment, one strike." The Mirumoto replies, "Two hands." And that, again, is pretty much their way of seeing things. And that's the Mirumoto. They tend to, like most dragon, take a circumspect view of things. They tend to look at everything as a riddle. But the Mirumoto, more than anything, are renowned for their duelists. Now, from the Agasha family, you eventually develop the Kitsuki family. And the Kitsuki family, they're special in the world of Rokugan. To understand why the Kitsuki are special, you have to understand how Rokugani court cases work. For the most part, a magistrate is the judge, jury, and executioner. And what a magistrate will do when a criminal investigation is going on is they will go out and they will seek testimony. They do not look for evidence. They look for people who witnessed something and ask them to speak and tell what they saw. Now, of course, real world, we know eyewitness testimony is the most unreliable. In Rokugan, however, eyewitness testimony is the only thing that counts. More than that, though, comes this little detail. Your status determines whether you're more likely to be believed or not. So, even if you have 3 witnesses who all report the exact same thing, if they are lower status than the accused, and the accused says, "No, I didn't do that," the accused is right, because he's higher status than the 3 accusers. This is important because the Kitsuki family developed a unique in Rokugan system of investigation. It's called the Kazuki Method. And it relies on evidence. And for most of the family's existence, their evidence gathering has generally not been accepted. It was only when Totori took the Emerald Throne and he made a compromise ruling that the Kitsuki who gathers evidence could give testimony on that evidence, that they started being treated respectively, more or less, outside of Dragonlands. But that was the unique factor with the Kazuki. They kind of stand Rokugani jurisprudence on its head whenever they're involved. Of course, we then have the Tattooed Order. The Togashi monks, the original of the Tattooed Orders, the Izizumi. They have been in existence from the very beginning. And you have to understand something with the Togashi monks. Togashi himself never went away. Unlike all the other ones of the kami, Togashi remained. Every 50 years he would change his name so people would think that there was a constant string of dragon champions. But it was always the same Togashi. Until he died fighting Fulang on the second day of Thunder. And when Togashi died, something happened. First off, his son, Hoshi, had a number of followers, and they started viewing themselves as a separate order from the Togashi monks. And then you had an order that sprang up from Mirumoto Hitomi. Hitomi created another order of tattooed monks, especially after she defeated Lord Moon. As in, she actually went up into the heavens, fought, and killed the moon. And she became the moon. And after she became the moon, she had her own order of monks. The Hitomi monks. And they were more about finding enlightenment through constant harsh trials. And eventually what would happen is that the Hitomi and Hoshi monks, their tattoos were unstable because they were not from Togashi. The blood that was used in them was not directly from Togashi. And so their tattoos would become unstable, and the minds of them would start to go. And so eventually they were either re-tattooed into the Togashi tradition, into the Togashi order, and thus their tattoos stabilized, or they went mad out in the world. And the last Hitomi monk died in the Destroyer War. And that is the big deal with the various orders of the monks. Ultimately, though, they are all still Togashi. And the Dragon Clan champion, after the destruction of Fulang on the second day of Thunder, eventually found out that he was the reincarnation of Togashi, that he could take on a more limited version of the draconic form of Togashi, and he could make the tattoos. And that is the Dragon Clan. They're probably the hardest clan to talk about because they really don't have that many stories. The Izuzumi are your typical, typical riddle-speaking monks, but they're also the leaders of the clan, because they're where the champion was from for all these years. And with that, next week, alphabetically speaking, it should be the Lion Clan that I talk about. So until then, I'd like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.